Hi, welcome to Restrocast. Today, my guest is Phil Crawford, CTO, Carl's Jr. Restaurants. Phil's journey is phenomenal because it's a journey of having first job as a 16-year-old at Carl's Jr. to serving as the CTO of the group. And on the way, working with, or rather contributing to, some of the most iconic brands in the world. Phil is somebody who you relate to because he's not the C-level technology executive who is going to prove or going to look like the stereotype, the stereotype that comes to your head. I have been in technology business all my life, and when I see technology people, I will not really call them boring. I'm a technologist myself, but you don't really see a guy, fully tattooed. The vibe is all punk and rock, as in his own words. I enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure you will. Welcome to Restrocast. Phil, welcome to Restrocast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
I like the accommodations.
Well, we didn't do much, but yeah. Phil, we know what you do today.
Yeah.
But I would love to, have you talk about what is your day job today? What is it that you do today at CKE? And then we will dive into, your early life from where it all started.
Back when I was a little.
I mean, not. I mean, you can.
A little boy.
We can debate on the size,
California.
But yeah.
Perfect. So, the title doesn't always justify what I do on a daily basis. My goal in my organization is I lead technology and I lead strategy and innovation for what we're trying to do, and that's a large encompassing umbrella, right? It can cover anything from infotech, infosec, infrastructure, all the infas you can think of in essence. But really my day-to-day is really to empower my people to come up with radical solutions that move our brand forward, but also support our franchisee groups to make sure they get the best possible technology experience end to end. I kid you not, that's what it is. My day is about probably 70% with my team in some different capacity. And the other 30% is about strategy and innovation and my own, moonbeams going out, trying to figure out what to do. Because without my team, I'm not successful, period. And so it may be a little bit of a divestiture of what people typically think a technology person does. It's a lot of collaboration, a lot of innovation, a lot of think tanking, like we were talking about earlier about the big Silicon Valleys. A lot of it comes from that. So if you were to go see my office, I'll send you guys a picture. It's like a cartoon town. It's Star Wars toys. It's 2 whiteboards. It's puppets. It's like a fun, inviting, intimate space on purpose because the idea is supposed to foster creativity. I think so many offices and so many organizations neglect the number one asset they have, which is their people. And I think that the people that we have there, especially in the technology, have radical ideas, and they need a place to be, entertained. They need a place where they can experiment and come across different ideas and thoughts. And that's really what my day-to-day is. I mean, that's the work side of it. Now, the personal side is totally different. I'm up at 4:30. I'm usually at the gym. I'm running. I'm on email. I'm getting kids off to school. I'm throwing my backpack on. I'm driving to the office, which is nice. It's only 15, 20 minutes from my house. Unlike my previous life, which was an hour and a half commute on a train.
Wow.
So it's radically different. Then it's the office, and it's to get home and hang out with the kids, make dinner, hang out with the wife. That's what it's about. Right? It's a complete balance between work and life, but I love what I do because I work with the people that I love. That's
quite wholesome.
Yeah, but it serves me well. People think that it's the antithesis of what I do because I've known to do some pretty radical stuff technology-wise to move our industry forward, and they think it's just me. No, I'm blessed to work with people that I've worked with in the past and will in the future, that we've built things together and we've stayed together longer term because that's how fosters and growth happens.
We're definitely going to dive deep into all of the radical stuff that you've done, in the industry.
Yeah.
before that,
Sure.
where it all started. So take me through your early years. Where did you grow up, and how the career, and how did you come to this career? We'll come to that and how it progressed.
So we'll go back certain part, won't go back all the way. So I grew up in Southern California, born and raised. You can kind of tell by the little surfer mentality, Southern California kind of vibe. I've always had a passion for the restaurant space. Irony, my first job in the restaurant space was at Carl's Jr. And now
wow.
when I was
Really?
when I was 16. So now I've come completely full 360. Now I head up technology for a worldwide brand that has 4,000 restaurants.
So that Carl's Jr. feels like home.
It does feel like home, because growing up in that culture, right, a surf vibe culture with burgers was kind of near and dear to my heart. And then growing up through high school and so forth, like literally my first computer, this will really date myself, was like a Commodore 64 and like a VIC 128 with the old monstrosity drive and your programming. Like that's how I got my initial start. And so I just carried it through, and I've always been in some aspect of the hospitality industry, whether it be through high school or going to college in Arizona. Like I used to run rooms at hotels. And why? Because you can run the night shift and you can study and you're still part of the hospitality. And you always make friends with the food and beverage directors because they're going to feed you. That's the best way to get through college. So, and it just kind of stuck with it, right? And through that, and you get through college and you get through different parts of your career, whether it be on the vendor side, which I've worked for some amazing vendor side companies, or now on my side, right, which is the restaurant side of the business, and having the balance between the two. So I've worked a variety of shifts in the restaurant space. I've worked behind the counter. I've worked cashiers. I've worked grill. I've worked fry. Like I've worked.
But that was in the early formative years?
Stage, yeah. But I also did it through college, right? You do what you have to do. Take out trash, scrub dishes at hotels.
But that's for the pocket money, right? No. Or is it because you wanted to get into this career?
I wanted to understand what this is all about. Because when you have a fire inside you and you kind of want to know where the fire came from, and you want to learn every facet about this business. And so every facet really means every facet. You got to look at every single job activity, whether it be from a hotel general manager or to a CEO of a restaurant organization, all the way down to a dishwasher, and understand every different skill set kind of reframes who you are as a person, but also puts it in perspective.
But you were also studying technology?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand, when you were trying to study technology, why were you interested in like the entire spectrum of things that happen at a restaurant?
Because there was not technology really in the play back then. Right? We had printers in the kitchen and a back office machine and so forth. So I always thought about it as a way of where you could learn about how emerging technology was coming up and how it might actually change an industry. And I saw over time, whether it be hotels or restaurants, some emerging things come out, right? New advances in point of sale or kitchen display systems, or back then digital menu board, like these radical new things started. And so through college and school and education, you're like, how can you apply these new modern tech stacks that are coming out? And again, this is 20, 30 years ago, that was unheard of, into spaces that never really had it. And so that's how I kind of stuck with it all the way through it. It was a passion for the tech and a passion for the food and beverage.
Right from the start.
Right from the start.
Well, this is absolutely crazy.
It is, but it's like, what makes you burn? People go like, what do you do for a living? Like, I have one of the greatest careers ever because I love what I do. Like, I have a complete passion because I grew up with a passion. I have a passion where I can play with the technology and be in food and beverage. I took a 2-year hiatus, and went to the retail side. So I'm jumping here. I'll come back to that. So I took 2 years off and went to go to the Godiva. And the Godiva was an international role more than I was at Shake Shack because I'm missing part of the international side, but also manufacturing and supply chain. So I saw it as, again, a continual way to learn, albeit it had food and beverage components to it. It was still part of it. But coming back to your ethos, which is food and beverage in and of its core, is why I always come back and will be here in some facet, in some way.
What was your first job?
I told you, it was Carl's Jr.
Yeah, that was when you were 16.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that was my first job. But that was back, that was in high school, right? Everybody's got to get a first job. And then through time, my career's progressed. So I've worked, again, for hotels. My first big break, quite frankly, offside the vendor side, was with Yard House. Yard House is now owned by Darden. And
that was 2002.
2002, correct. And really worked with some amazing leaders there that really kind of shaped of who I am today as a leader.
What exactly was your role at Yard House?
So believe it or not, I started just as a regular director of IT. Right? They were a small up and coming brand in Irvine, California, that I sold them their point of sale system, and the
You
partners,
sold them the bonus system.
yeah, and worked on it at the same time
Like what were you?
with HSI Micros back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so being that guy that understood the business and the technology became kind of a natural fit. And as they grew, Harold Herman, Steel Platt, Craig Carlisle, Jeff Utes, all gentlemen that I have a good rapport with even still to today, give a chance to a young guy. And after that,
and what was your what was that role like? Like, what did you do there at your house?
Everything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Anything technology wise.
Take me through that.
The whole entire thing. So early stages, it was about how do we further differentiate our brand, and then how do you bring new technologies to a brand that's going to have massive growth, and we did. Whether it be the audiovisual systems that were state of the art that nobody was doing through Mac and through iTunes back in the day, and through third-party programs like Megaseg, to working with the keg line systems by putting electromagnetic pulse through them through the beer guys, to updating modern reservation systems by using SMS text early stages that nobody was doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Custom developing sequencing code for Steel Platt so we could sync music across the nation for songs. And outside of that, then you had core enterprise systems that, again, more cloud-based, full-on DR disaster recovery centers, one in Irvine, one in Dallas. So really at Yard House, it was kind of the first overall venture into IT and the leadership.
How large was this? How big was Yard House when you joined?
I think we joined, there was 5 restaurants. And when I left, we were at 45, 46, and we sold it to Darden. So massive growth over the 10 plus years I was there. But really it was because at that time they had just run the nation's restaurant award for the hot concept, and we were growing rapidly. And they realized early stages, like Jeff Utes, who's still a great friend today, and Harold and Steele and Carlito, and the list goes on and on and on. Jennifer, and I can name them all in about 10 seconds, but I won't. We saw the avenue of where technology needed to go and be part of it. Like even out of that entire group of folks, we built also a charity foundation based on technology called Rounded Up America that's still alive today.
What does it do?
It round up your check to the nearest dollar, and we give the money through the restaurants to food banks around the nation.
Wow.
And I'm still on the board. Like that's how much impact technology had on that concept. And simply because we put a part of our ethos that we were a restaurant technology first company. We wanted to make sure that we knew the technology outside of amazing food, outside of an amazing bar and the audiovisual, that a key component was making sure that the technology stacks work. We were also very, very busy. These are $20+ million businesses. These are massive.
Yeah, Your House is.
They're huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
And so there's so much running behind the scenes.
I've been to one in Vegas.
Yeah, the one in Vegas. I built a lot of those. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears at night. Like literally, I was pulling cable.
Damn.
And the guys that I
those are
worked with,
large spaces. These are like
they were a lot.
Crazy mad. Yeah.
So we did every part of it. I did, when I started, it was myself, and over time I grew a team. And even those guys to the date I still talk to. Like one of them just got promoted to a VP of IT for a nationwide sushi brand. Like the people that you build in these industries because you cut your teeth with them is what it makes up to. So to your point earlier, like everything you can think of inside the 4 walls, we did. But also with the technology side too. We're getting phone calls at 2 a.m. We're troubleshooting point of sale systems. We're rolling out voice IP systems over phones. Stuff that was kind of radically different for our industry at that time really kind of put a moniker and a stamp on the first part of their career, which was amazing. And it was bittersweet to leave that role because we sold it. Right? Yeah. And we all had different equity.
That's 2012?
Yeah, we all had different exits. Because the team stuck together. Like our leadership team was together the entire time. No turnover. And the growth. And we went through, a crisis or two during that time, 2008. Like we all hunkered down and made that concept what it was. And it really was one of the best cultures we've ever had. A lot of good instilled leadership values and qualities I still carry forward because of that time period, because of the gentlemen and the ladies I worked with there.
What after Yard House?
It took a year. So TSG was our private equity firm in Yard House, and they had a concept called My Fit Foods out of Texas, and needed, again, a technology stack there to roll, which at that time was a retail component, like a dietary, you buy your food in bulk, lose weight, eat healthy. That was the premise of it. To grow that, they thought it was a big vehicle. They invested in it, so they brought a couple of us went on it to from Yard House, my supply chain lead Miranda and myself, from a technology standpoint, obviously through their ownership, to grow out that concept. And it was successful to a point, and then literally about a year in Texas, and then a year to the day, I was obviously talking with some friends. I joined Shake Shack, which out of New York. So there you go. So now I'm going from California, right? Stop off in Texas. Now I'm heading off to New York. So I'm going coast to coast in totally different lifestyles. Like wake up in the morning, hit a beach, roll into the office, vibes, tacos and beer, to getting up and it's 20 degrees outside and it's snowing and you're hopping on trains and you're going to Manhattan, or you're going to get run over, or you're going to run somebody over. Either way you look at it.
Yeah.
So, and I was blessed to have an opportunity to go to Shake Shack. And I got the opportunity to go to Shake Shack because of my connections at Yard House through Jeff Hughes, who today is still an amazing friend and colleague and peer, quite frankly. And we did some amazing things there at Shake Shack.
Shake Shack is a great,
brand. With Randy Garudi and Zach Koff and Danny Meyer. Like when I joined, it was not the behemoth you know and doubt today. It was much smaller. I think I joined in the early dozens or so of restaurants, maybe the
really
25
even in 2013 it was still small.
It was smaller. It wasn't as big as it is now. So I joined, and our premise there was, at that point we were part of USHG. Obviously we had a path to go public. So how do you split the restaurants and build an entire tech stack that at that time could grow us to 500 restaurants? Introduce some, again, radical new things. Point of sale systems aside, like we had pagers. How do we automate a pager so when you bump it off the kitchen, it buzzes a pager? Nobody was doing it. Like we built our own custom kiosks, right? We built our own custom apps. We've won awards for all that stuff. But again, it was because the team, what we've done there over the years, made it the concept technology-wise what I still think it is today. We built infrastructure right there. And things over time change. It's been several years now since I've been removed. But it's just been part of that entire journey that once again, you can kind of take that ethos. Phenomenal culture.
I want to ask you that. Well,
Yeah.
what is it? What about, Shake Shack's culture that you not only admired, you
Yeah. Look, I think
continue to carry with you?
I think a lot of the Shake Shack culture was, stand for something good, right? And it really is. I know Randy used to always say, the larger to get, the smaller we have to continue to think. Like basically don't forget where you came from. And that really was a super highly functional team that really treated the employees with the greatest respect. I mean, they did some amazing planning. Peggy Rubenzer, who's an amazing, HR professional and leader in our industry, helped build and foster team manuals and guides to growth and continualization for career advancement. Stuff that was radical, leveraging new LMS systems that, really kind of got on the social side before social was social. Like, how do we connect with these people in a platform they can integrate with? And more importantly, it really became down to understanding of what our employees needed and treat them with the ultimate respect. And that culture there really fostered that growth of that company. That's why you have.
How much of Danny Meyer's still, exists? I
think a lot of his mentorship and a lot of his philosophies are still ingrained in the core part of Shake Shack. I mean, Shake Shack now itself, it's its own animal. It's its own business. You can follow it in obviously the news. He sits on the board. But I still think Danny Meyer's Enlightened Hospitality is still a very strong hold in that company, as well it should be. I think a lot of companies, regardless of industry, should follow a lot of the great examples of being a 51%er. Like people say you drank the Kool-Aid. I'm glad I drank that Kool-Aid because I've learned a lot from that man and that leadership team overall. And a lot of people have grown up following his footsteps and following his basic principles about treating others and enlightened hospitality, and charitable assumption. Like the things roll off tongues because you live it and you believe it all at the same time.
You know how I discovered Danny Meyer's involvement with Shake Shack? That was quite phenomenal for me. So I didn't know his involvement there. In fact, I didn't know him. I knew Union Square Cafe.
Sure.
And then I knew that this guy Danny Meyer's behind it, and I used to admire Shake Shack.
Yeah.
I used to be like, wow, what a great brand, silent, really doing their stuff, loyal customers. Every Shake Shack, I think, was running on word of mouth completely.
Yeah.
And then one day I read this book. This book is called Small Giants.
Uh-huh.
The byline of the book says the companies who decided to be I don't know. Sorry, I missed the byline. Anyway,
It's good.
it's called Small Giants, right? It's basically talks about entrepreneurs who did not take the path like to become big in a shortcut. Really stuck to their guns, stuck to their laurels, made sure that they're doing the right thing all the time.
Yeah.
And then the business just, grew.
It did.
Evolutionary. And that's where it said Denny Myers and it said Shake Shack. And I can tell you that I stopped reading. I was jumping. I was like, wow, this is so phenomenal. Like a guy that I admire and a brand that I admire and the connection turns out to be this way. That was phenomenal for me.
It was phenomenal working there. And again, it's another part of your career that I'm very proud of to be associated with, doing so many cool things we've done technology-wise. But again, it also goes back to where the yard housing, you kind of foster where you want to go and grow where you came from and feel comfortable with. Like a lot of people say, the easiest way is the path of least resistance. I say I disagree. The easiest way is the most resistance, that you get the best ideas and the best things. And that was one of the successes between Yard House and last time was with Shake Shack. Like we did our own thing. Like we were the anti-chain chain, right? Everything was shackified in some way. Like because we wanted to be that ethos. We never did a loyalty program. They still don't have it because of the word of mouth. They're the In-N-Out Burger of the East Coast in essence, because they have the cult following.
For sure.
Because they embody what is about the concept, which is about standing for something good, enlightened hospitality, great quality product, right? At a reasonable price, and the experience. Every building's different. Every building's unique. Every building's a social gathering place. Like all these things resonate with people because they want to feel part of a community gathering place.
That's amazing that you say that, because today morning I was talking to Wade, and this is exactly what we were talking about. That I don't understand when loyalty programs generally pivot around giving points, earn and burn, and discounts to the loyal customers. And I'm like, you know what? In the restaurants, it's confusing because if I'm a loyal customer, I'm gonna come to. I want to have that food anyway.
Yeah.
Right. If you are giving me discount, then you're stupid because I am not coming for discount. And if I'm coming for discount, then you need to improve your food, because
Correct.
I mean, there's some confusion.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're right. Shake Shack doesn't discount. Yard House never discounted. I obviously work now for a major QSR. Right. And that's also built into their ethos of doing FSIs and coupons, and loyalty is different for QSR because the space is different.
I mean, when you're it's different, right? When you're gunning for frequency, it's a different problem, right?
Totally different game.
Yeah.
But I think the passion that the leadership had at Shake Shack was bringing Shake Shack to the world. I remember with Michael Kark when they first opened their first couple international locations. Like it was crazy that under the first 10 restaurants, they're going international. But you're nuts. Great. Let's be nuts. Let's be radically different because we know they have something there. Like they know the burger is different. They know that the ethos of what it stood for. Like it started with the hot dog. It had a story. It had a moniker. Like you name the analogy, you name the key word, it was there. And we believed it. And they still believe it today, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not obviously involved in the day-to-day.
I've seen queues outside Shake Shack in Dubai.
It's crazy.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely crazy because, it's not a brand which is a household name, technically.
No,
I mean,
it's not.
It has its own audience.
It does, but it also has a mystique of New York City. People are infatuated internationally in New York City. So it's kind of like the westernization of Asia Pac, EMEA, and so on and so forth. Again, I think we did some cool stuff at Shake Shack because I had an amazing team. I had a phenomenal heads of technology, still guys I know today. I had Giancarlo and Brett and Anoop, and Tony, these amazing guys that today are still pillars in different parts of the industries or even outside the industries because they all bled the same thing. We all worked hard, played hard, and enjoyed it and enjoyed each other's cultures. More importantly, enjoyed each other's, embodiments and their values. And that's just kind of carried forward. It's that same principles that we've lived on from Yard House into there. And again, it was a grateful opportunity to work with Jeff again and that leadership team. And yeah, it was crazy. Great times. Rocket ship. Like Yard House was a rocket ship. Shake Shack was a rocket ship.
Yeah. So you were at Shake Shack in their
pre-IPO.
Fastest growing years.
During the crazy times, which is what I love. It's organized chaos in every possible way. Like it's you don't know what you don't know, but that's okay. I actually enjoy not knowing what I don't know. several times because that's how you learn and you make it as you go. So a lot of the system and a lot of the policies and procedures, I'm sure, have changed over time because companies have to evolve and grow.
Sure.
But at those early stages, you're right. Like, again, you're trying stuff that nobody had done before. In your case, some will stick, some won't stick. You're trying different LTOs. You're trying different technology platforms. You're trying different nuances on how things work. You're implementing new software solutions that are outside the industry, coming into the industry the first time. But like, what are you doing? Like, why not? Can't go wrong. You can always go back and rip it out. So early stages is awesome. It's also comes with a lot of risk. There's also a lot of reward.
What after Shake Shack?
After Shake Shack, I left and went to Godiva for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So Shake Shack was an amazing run, right? I saw my path and trajectory. I'm also a big believer of always continuing yourself and growing on yourself. I was missing the international side of the business and the supply chain and the manufacturing side. And the opportunity came up and I took it. Like most people said, I can't believe you left two amazing brands and left the industry. You'll be back. And my buddies, Joe Tenzar and Brian Pearson, who will be listening to this entire thing or watch it, will say, we told you so. And yes, they're right. So I left for a couple of years and did that. Again, I worked for another amazing couple leadership teams under Murat Bey, who's obviously a Turkish owner, and Annie, who was our CEO, and worked with a whole slew of different international professionals to really kind of help grow what Godiva was pre-pandemic. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit in the middle of it and kind of shut down a lot of different plans overall. We were lucky enough to get e-commerce sites up and running. We were in the process of rolling out worldwide ERP, which I believe actually helps sustain a lot of those organizational growth. I had a head of international IT, Steve Whitelum, who's amazing as well. And a lot of those systems that were in place back in the day, I think helped sustain the growth of
This was
brands.
your first tries with retail.
This was the first try with retail, correct?
And
luxury retail.
Yeah.
It's luxury chocolate retail.
True that. Yeah, was definitely not traditional crazy retail.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But did you find retail, much more evolved in technology than restaurants?
Absolutely. I think retail side is always going to be ahead of us. And that's also, it's a blessing and it's also a curse to the restaurant industry.
Why?
Because the retail side has to be quicker. There's more retail outlets and there's more I think competitiveness in retail worldwide than in restaurants.
Thinner margins, more theft.
Call it what it is, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But the retail side has always been ahead. They've also kind of like travel and leisure and hospitality. Like airlines were the first to do kiosks and mobile boarding passes, just like retail now with loyalty programs and like Amazon Goes, you walk out and it's all, you don't talk to anybody. The retail side of the business was fascinating because again, we own boutiques and we own retail outlets. How can we get technology immersed into those brands and bring loyalty into those? Nice part of that, it wasn't too radical per se. Maybe the e-commerce side was more radical, but it was a safe play technology-wise because a lot of big brands had already done it in that luxury space. I mean, you name the Tiffany's of the world, the Macy's of the world, right? That had the technology stacks and some great leaders.
A lot is solved. It's not.
A lot of it's solved. There's not anything kind of radically different there, except when it came to manufacturing. Us being the manufacturer of chocolates and plants around the world, understanding robotics, understanding line times, and understanding the supply chain models were incredibly impactful to that part of the business, which again, I believe was one of my shortcomings, and you go after your shortcoming and try to fulfill them. That was part of the retail side of it.
And then how come Carl's Jr. happened?
Because I lost a bet to Joe and Brian. No, I'm kidding. It came across that there was this opportunity out of Tennessee of a brand that was looking for some change, technology-wise, because they had a technology deficit. Nothing had been involved in quite a while. They've tried it, didn't get off the ground, didn't get off the ground. And somebody said, hey, you should give it a shot. So through the interview process, it came up that it was Carl's and Hardy's. And I'm like, light bulb, first job 16. There's no way this is the same concept. And, I went through the process and I fell in love with Carl's Jr. after being gone away for so long. Remember, I grew up in California. I went to school in Arizona. I'm like any young 20 years. I've lived in Vegas. I lived in Colorado. I've lived everywhere. It feels like I was in Texas. And you come back to it and you're like, I know this brand. I know this concept. I know what they stood for. And the opportunity came across, through Ned Lyerly, who was our CEO at the time, and Chad Crawford, who was the CMO, and some great people there overall. And then obviously the work partnership to say, hey, we need to become relevant. How do we get digitally relevant? 3,000 restaurants domestically, another 1,000 international. We've got to get on the map. Can you do it? challenge accepted. And that's how I got the role. Like writing a playbook, writing a strategy, writing an implementation plan to roll out infrastructure, security, point of sale, CDP, loyalty, digital ordering, third-party ecosystems, like accounting system, HRIS systems, like you name it, it was on a list. And sure, we had the big groups coming in like McKinsey and BCG. Ironically, Cliff Dreschner, who was the chief transformation officer, I knew him because he was part of the working at Yard House when that got acquired by Darden. So we had to, if we knew him as well. So it's those 6 degrees. I guess the moral of the story is never burn a bridge because it's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon wherever you go. So always pay homage to those who have taken care of you and vice versa.
That's a big one.
It is. So opportunity came across and I went for it. It was probably one of the most exciting challenges I've had because national brands, remember, we represent 2 of the top 10 QSRs in the nation. A lot of headroom, a lot of opportunity, a lot of runway, but also a big risk if you don't do it. Because if you don't do it, there's a reason you got put in that role because predecessors may or may not have accomplished what they wanted to be at a certain time. I was up for the challenge, picked up the family, moved to Tennessee, and fast forward to 3 years, as of September, we've accomplished nearly everything on that list.
Wow.
We've done more change in the last 3 years, probably in the last 10 years at that brand. And again, it goes back to what I started this whole conversation about. It's the team. Like my entire technology org is amazing. My 5 or 6 report direct twos, whether it be Tom, Melissa, Brian, Ryan, Dave, Rob, like Jason, like these people deserve equal credit as much as I do because of the team effort. And then below them, like the turnover in IT is incredibly low because we've fostered this similar growth of culture inside of the technology department, which is empowerment, which is bringing ideas to the table. And today, which is why we have an app, why we have digital ordering, right? We're competing now on the same level field with Wendy's, with Arby's, with other inspired brands, other work portfolio brands, albeit I wish I had their budgets. I don't, right? But we're at the table now, which is important. And to get to that level, it's just been kind of like a moniker because everywhere I go, I want to leave it better than I got it, period. And leave a flag and a statement as I go.
You know, what's your leadership like? I mean, I see that you've said a lot of stuff, you know, already, and you know, it may get rehashed, right? But
sure.
But I'll just ask you to demystify that, right? Empowerment and a lot of words, you know, every leader will say, every leader will speak about, right? How do you? What are a couple of things that you actually, you know, can, you know, talk about in practice that really embody those words?
So there's a pastor named Craig Rochelle that I followed for a very long time. And he has some great quotes. And one of them, people would rather follow a leader that's true than one that's always right. And I believe in that. And his leadership podcast talks about that. Like, I'm not a bullshit kind of guy. Like, I'm a humble guy. I wear my colors on my sleeve, wear my tattoos nowadays. That's how I am. I lead by example, and I don't expect anybody to do any more than I would do. And I think that goes a long way to have humility and to pass, you know, successes down to the teams who did the work. I think that is part of my leadership style, is really elevating your team is part of how I do it. I'm honest with them. I'm not going to sugarcoat it if days are bad, but I'm also going to give them praise from the mountains when days are great. And I think that goes a long way. I think people don't leave companies because of the company. They leave because of bad leadership. And my leadership really is a lot of humility and a lot of, you know, humbleness and respect and gratitude. And those are big words. And a lot of folks may not know who I am, but those that probably do know me understand that I'm very truthful in the words that I choose, and I choose them wisely because it means a lot. Because you're only as good as your actions and who you are.
Sure.
Like, I could sit here and tell you one story, and if I go out there, people go, "You're full of crap. That's not who you are."
Yeah.
And I think that's also why, on a personal level, I've made so many great friends and so many great connections because I am who I am. I mean, I'm probably your most atypical IT leader you might come across. I mean,
I see that. I don't see a lot of tattooed leaders roaming around with.
You know, and the tattoos are only part of it. Like, the other side of it is just that I'm not afraid to be who I am, and I'm not afraid to, speak my mind. But I'm also really big about relationships. So the Hardy side and the Carl side, we've done amazing jobs because I've built relationships with these owners and these franchisees and these people on a human level. I think it's so often missed in business because we're all about the bottom line. You forget about people, and that's what gets us here. So that's,
and at the end of the day, we all are doing business with people.
We are people, period. We're in a people business. Call it what it is. You may not think that technology is affecting people because we don't see somebody, but you're using a device that's in an indirect way affecting people's lives. So that's kind of who I am in my leadership style. And again, I have fun. Like, we just got back from a Carl's Jr. trade show, which is our annual convention, and I'll send you pictures. Literally, our booth has squeezable chickens that squawk and squishy toys. We're doing chicken tosses. We had cocktails. We had beers. We were wearing funky chicken hats and funky chicken shirts. You know why?
Awesome.
Because we got to have fun, and we're going to be true to our characters, and that's just who we are. And some people love it, some people hate it, but most people feel it's comfortable, it's approachable. Because I think technology can be scary to some because we can sit here in large acronyms. We can talk about radical new things that are emerging. People get turned off. We just can't do that to people.
There's a lot of technology happening in the restaurant world, especially last couple of years.
There is.
And, a lot of random technology is also trying to find its use cases. It's actually reverse.
Yes.
I see so many products and so many concepts trying to find the problem that they're solving.
There is.
How are you looking at all this euphoria around tech?
So I said it the other day, and I'll say it again. Not every technology deserves to be in the restaurant. Don't go away from your ethos of who you are. Carl's is 80 years old. Hardy's is 60 years old. We know who we are. We know our identity. Technology should be a complement to the business, not a detriment. It should reduce friction and add frictionless to it. So when it comes to us, we look at the guest experience first and foremost. Can it help the guest experience through operations efficiency, through onboarding efficiency, through drive-through efficiency? Then yes, maybe it gets to proof of concept and moves on. If it doesn't answer the core questions, then it's not for us. There's some amazing tech coming out that, like, we're experimenting with, large modeling on generative AI, tons of different stuff. We have AI through drive-thrus now in 100 plus restaurants because it fits what we need to get done. Some back end, some front end. Other technologies we looked at that are amazing. I'd love to go play. I'd love to have an entire fully automated kitchen potentially. It's just not who we are. I'd love to have technology that scans your product as it's being built. So it gets to the final person and it says, doesn't meet because you wanted ketchup and there's no ketchup on it. It's not who we are. Like, we're made fresh. We have quality control checks across the way. So that's the fine line with us, is technology is great. Technology needs to complement and help the business. And that's kind of what we look at moving forward. And we also have radical ideas or things that we've tried in restaurants that we pulled them out. It's okay. You got to try them.
What are the crazy, like, give me a few crazy tech that you tried.
Oh, we've tried a couple different things. I won't name specific companies, but we've tried things in QSR, right, through curbside, QR technology that weren't right. They weren't just timing for the business was wrong. We tried stuff back at Shake Shack, right, that once again might change the way guests interact with you at the cashier stations. Didn't work. We tried stuff at Yard House through early apps where you could, check music, and somebody's like, oh, I already got an app for that. Whoops, sorry, privacy issues. So we've done different things throughout their career that it's okay. You take a step back and, like, great idea, good concept, right idea, wrong timing. So,
what about AI replacing people? I mean,
depend on AI. This is a part that's crazy. AI is such a large nomenclature word. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I think AI in certain aspects does. Like, we talk about generative AI with regards to guest feedback engines. How many times have you been on an IVR phone call or on an app and it prompts you all these questions? If we can use algorithms of AI to make those smarter to help the guests, sure, there's an actual benefit to the business, but also the guest itself. You look at AI in the restaurant.
You mean like the IVR can go adaptive?
Correct, exactly.
Okay. That's cool.
100% adaptive. You also know different than, like, the drive-through, right? The technology of the drive-through. It's the consistency of the upsell, the consistency of the messaging. I'm not taking away people's jobs. I'm helping their jobs be more efficient. I'm taking away the mundane task of saying, welcome to Carl's or welcome to Hardee's, how may I take your order? Like, it gets mundane. Say that 250 times a day. Kind of like, I don't want to say it anymore. Or do you want to prompt for a Coke? Or do you want to prompt for a large? Like, these kind of tasks that are done help the business efficiently and also help the employees. Because you look at the guest services scores that go up, you look at the drive-through services scores that go up, and the consumer scores that go up, as well as the employee scores, right? There's different technologies that we're implementing on the back end that are going to help take away some of the mundane tasks from analytics, right? If we can see patterns in advance and recognize them and build, large modeling platforms that can actually evolve and so forth, we will. If we're going to implement ideas like ChatGPT, where operators can say, hey, show me last Tuesday's sales, but throw in a weather component of rain, minus every hamburger we sold because it was this LTO, give me the output, there's benefits there. I think it'll continue to impact our life. Now, AI is not new. AI has been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's just now getting face time, as we keep saying it, because it's being introduced to different parts of businesses in different industries in a variety of different ways. I think that it'll continue to evolve because I think the population is continuing to age and people are growing up with those devices in their hands, and that's what they expect. And they're going to interact that way moving forward. And we better be competitive with that nature and understand that's coming, or we're going to be left in the dark ages, quite frankly.
How much pressure is there on tech to innovate? The tech teams to innovate?
I just did a whole panel about innovate or die, right? You have to innovate. You have to be changing and evolving. When's the last time you saw a first generation iPod? Right? You innovate or you die. You change. Like, remember the Microsoft Zune? Their first generation of, you remember Zune? Their first generation of their iPod.
Yeah,
player?
exactly. The point that nobody, most of the people don't even know that, right?
I know. That's how old I am, right? Tell me, forget that. So, like, you have to evolve. So there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of trajectory things you do. You've got to have a 3-year plan. You've got to have a strategy moving forward. Because if you're not doing it in the next 6 months, your competition is, right? In some facet. You have to keep pushing the envelope forward because that's what the guest experience wants. But it's also what the business needs to evolve. I mean, there's been a ton of Harvard business case reviews that say story after story after story of companies that don't evolve and innovate. It's got to be part of your DNA. It's got to be part of your organizational mission and cultural values, period.
But, I see this in the restaurant tech. There are two worlds almost right now, which is one is like this whole wave of new age restaurant tech of all types and kinds. And then there's the old, bunkers of legacy tech still relevant to some extent. And then in between, I find leaders who I will not really blame the age. I think it's about the mindset. You of course, large enterprises, high stakes, you need stable leaders, right? So, but I see the gap has gone really crazy because when I see even legacy people talking about cloud, their cloud strategy is also very, very legacy.
It is.
The cloud thinking is also, quite primitive.
It is.
And on the other side, I see the new age companies who are spinning solutions on the toes, and their robustness is nothing, right? They're not reliable. They don't really, stand the test of scale. If where do you, like, as a CTO, as a CIO, as a technologist, how are you bridging this gap? Are you taking a bet on the new age ones, dragging them, to the stability, or are you still siding with legacy because nobody got fired to buy an IBM?
I think the first approach. I think you're bringing the new into the old, not the old into the new. So you might take a new cloud, a SaaS solution, right? A Snowflake, for instance, and you're going to figure out how to adopt it, and you're going to get rid of your Microsoft SQL Server backends, and it's going to be difficult. It's okay, because that's where the industry's got to go. That's where the world's going. If you don't have that creative mindset moving forward, you're going to die, period. Like, it's great. You can't go wrong with Big Blue. It's a safe bet, right? I don't do safe bets all the time. It's okay. Like, I'm glad they put it on the platform to move forward because you need to. And a lot of these emerging companies, what if Google never got a chance? What if Facebook never got a chance? Like, it's the same kind of mantras. Like, certain systems can be evolved to move forward with us. And that's how you get them to move forward with us, is you bring them along the journey and you teach them as a partner not as a vendor of how the business, and they can benefit. So one of our strategies internally is all of our partners, they're not vendors. We try as much as possible to have QBRs and strategy meetings and long-term planning. So we can bring them on the journey. And so they can understand where they're going and how it pinnacles and parallels our path. Because if they're successful, we're successful. That's how you bring them in, right? Period. Sure, a lot of startups, they don't have all the wisdom, they don't have the knowledge. They got a cool idea, but they're lacking some core fundamentals. If you can help them establish and build those core fundamentals while exercising and building your own, it's a win-win scenario, right? That's kind of the mindset, like best of breed, new idea thought processes. You have to. If you don't, I think you're going to get stuck with the old legacy POS, right? Or the old legacy data center it's a safe bet. It's not going down because it's backed by Google.
Yeah.
But guess what? Like the cloud is so much easier to replicate. It's so much quicker. I can spin things up on a dime. Remember virtualization came out. Like it was the greatest thing in the world. Like you came out to go buy a server farm. I can buy one powerful device and it can run hundreds and hundreds of VMs. But I need a DR. Like it's just logical.
I can buy an instance on a server. Right?
Exactly.
Like,
So yeah, that's kind of our philosophy and kind of how I think of emerging tech. Again, not every tech's going to be here. You got to place your bets. And there's been bets you've placed that have not made it. They've gone away, but it's okay, right? You kind of learn over time which ones you can kind of foster because you had the discussions early on the partnership moving forward.
How's the discussion or how's the conversation changed over the last 3 years with industry peers? I see you do a lot of work with, industry peers at RTN, at a lot of forums. But how's that? What do you see is a change in the conversation in the last couple of years, especially last 3 years?
Well, I think, birds of a feather flock together. I think there's a lot of us that still think that same way, and you kind of go in those groups. I think you're seeing a little bit of a disbandment between the old generation, myself and those that are still around, and those that aren't really taking a news to it, trying to just kind of doing best of breed and not having a leadership kind of, to your point, a safer role. I think a lot of conversations are talking about buzzwords and not so much the understanding of the word, which is, it's kind of scary, but it's also, everybody kind of goes after the moniker of the big 800-pound gorillas. I want to be like them, want to be like them. You don't need to always be like them. It's okay. You be your own animal, be your own beast, and so forth. A lot of great thought leaders in the industry that we have as part of the RTN and that whole board really has the same philosophies of like-minded, like sharing, with the idea that we can all agree to disagree or we can agree to agree. And that really is helpful and as we grow, because we're all sharing content, we're all sharing ideas and thought processes. Like I share competitive sets with my competitors all the time. If you have it tomorrow, I'm going to have it the next day or vice versa. Well, I'm not selling the secret sauce. I'm not giving away the intellectual property. But we're talking about where the industry as a whole can move together, not just an individual brand. And I think that's an important part of the culture that we've built internally as a restaurant executive. Not a technology executive. I mean a restaurant executive, because I'm interfacing with CMOs and CDOs and COOs and COOs and chief digital officers. Like it's completely now anonymous across the board because they're so hyper interconnected. It's crazy. There's no longer these pillars and silos because there's so many different ideas and topics across boundaries.
Absolutely. Either the entire industry elevates or the entire industry suffers.
Correct.
And especially with I think the evolution of tech, from our perspective, what I see across the world.
Yeah.
I think I actually see US, for example, like actually quite behind what the rest of the world is doing.
Way behind.
Yeah. It just surprises us.
Yeah. I think it surprises those that haven't ever traveled internationally. Like the years of Godiva traveling internationally opened my eyes to see how the world is. That is probably when I said the international experience earlier. I never had the privilege to travel to Japan or Dubai, right? Or to Mumbai or to London, or to Turkey, and see all the different cultures that are out there. But just to realize how much more advanced civilization is once you get to those parts of the world, but more radically how culture is different, but people are the same. Right? People really are generally nice to one another, and they just want the best of. Maybe that's the optimist in me. It could be wrong. Maybe it is. But technology in other countries is far superior than it is here. like I can go to China or Japan and we think, wow, you can pay with your phone. Cool. Like, are you kidding me? Like they've got that for a decade, dude.
Yeah.
Like kids are walking around with WeChat and paying for everything on a device, like or using biometrics and pay. And it's mind blowing.
I can move around India without a penny in my pocket,
On one app.
without a credit card,
Yeah.
without a credit card issued to my name,
It's crazy, right?
right? And I can transact any amount day in day out, from a street vendor to a large corporation. It's just amazing.
It's a unified platform.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I think the United States is going next. I think a unified payments platform, like in a unified ecosystem in general. I can't think of the movie where everybody has a social score kind of thing. It's a crazy movie, science fiction. Look it up. That's where we're going. We'll get caught up. It's okay, but they're always going to be ahead. We talk about, not to get all political, why other countries are leading ahead, because they are. Like we should learn from them and learn to adapt what they can do here in the States, right? And some companies are doing it here domestically. There's my buddy that now is the head of IT at Kerr, and the CFO is a great friend at Kerr. Like they're doing stuff radically with technology and robots in stores. Like, but overseas they've been there for years. So
yeah, I think I also feel that a lot of developing world is way ahead in tech because they needed it.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in the US, and I see that in the UK as well. Probably the need did not really arise that fast.
No.
I think life was good and set, and probably the systems and processes took care of what technology should have.
Yeah. I think here where it's always just naturally slow to adopt because we're more pessimistic, might be the right way to say it. We're not just trustworthy, in kind of my idea. Maybe we're not forced upon it in a way. Because we don't like to change, I think is a part of our DNA.
I think nobody likes to change. I think it's really about, I see this very, very clear pattern.
Yeah.
Countries where process was the first thing, like process above people.
Yeah.
They eventually became slower in adopting technology because nobody likes change.
No.
And things are going fine. Like you don't fix what is not broken.
Yeah.
Till the time
it's
broken beyond, it's broken beyond repair. And countries where they were not pro-process, and most of the developing nations, for them, technology was the only way. Technology was the way to control people from doing stupid shit,
True.
From doing wrong. And they were more, they wanted efficiency and they kind of, evolved much faster.
They forced their hand.
Yeah, that's what I see. I see that in India. I see that in, so many parts of the world.
No, you're right. It's also, name your political stance. It's the way our societies are built in different parts of the country, or the world. Excuse me. That's just how they are. There's no wrong or right answer there. I think that if you look from truly a technology lens of it, there's been a lot of benefits coming out of the way those governments have put things in place for the benefit of society. Right? There's things that we've done in the States that have been radically different around the world, and then vice versa. As long as we can share and adopt those and adapt those, everybody wins.
My last question to you, Phil.
Oh, last question. Already? Just kidding.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
So, it's a great question. And here's why. So, I alluded to earlier, and again, I'm not trying to tout my own horn here, that I love to continually educate. I'm a big guy that loves to read. I'm a big podcast guy. I'm a big inspirational book guy. I actually am in school right now. I went back to Harvard, which is crazy to do that full time while I'm working full time. And so I literally have class on Monday nights and Thursday nights virtual and go back. And my 5 years, I would love to be a CEO of an organization. I think
awesome.
I think people gravitate to what Steve Jobs said, right? The whole Think Different campaign, like those that think outside the box. And I kind of don't fit your moniker of what a CEO would be, but I think personally, like that's my striving goal. Like you have to set an aspiration bar super high in this industry in some facet, because I think that I can really move a company forward in a variety of ways just from my learnings in the years I've been doing it. And I would love a challenge to take the bull by the horns and go with it. And technology only gets you so far. I think being that next level of running an entire org from end to end, from every facet, would be my eventual goal.
I think that's beautiful, because I mean, world sees that eventually organizations are taken over by finance guys, the guys who run money, right? Or and the way technology is taking over the world, I would love to see technology guys taking over the companies next instead of the finance guys alone.
Here, I'm with you. And there's a couple of technologists in our space that have moved up, into CEOs.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a couple. I mean, obviously,
like who are tech guys, who are like CIOs and the CTOs.
Yeah, like Sharif that runs Bricks, right? Or Stacy that now runs Jenny's. I mean, you're talking Fridays and Wingstop, great peers and mentors. Like, the opportunities out there, and they're doing amazing things because they bring a completely different lens, like you hit on the nose. It's usually operations and finance guys, or gals, I should say, either way. But the world is moving to your device in your pocket, right? The world is becoming more connected.
Yeah.
I think having a technology lens in a CEO leadership role is going to become a unique, distinctive advantage for those that give an opportunity to guys like me that might just be that technology weirdo in the corner, but I'm actually not. I actually have like radical ideas and thoughts and processes and policies and procedures that I think can move brands forward. That's my goal.
That's perfect. And I'm all the best, not only for your own goal. I think that is something that I believe will happen in the world anyway. For technology to truly take over the world,
yes,
the CEOs have to be technology first. They don't need to understand technology. They have to think technology first.
That's a great distinction. I think so many people think they have to understand it. They have to understand the importance of it. They may understand the bits and bytes, as they say, but they got to know where the relevancy is, where it is in the day-to-day part of their lives.
Phil, it was an absolute pleasure talking.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And congratulations on a great journey.
Thank you. Many more to come. We'll do it here in 5 years and see where we're at.
100%.
Awesome. I'll be here. Thank you.